And today we have a very special guest with us. She's a good friend and she is a very experienced teacher. So let us see what she shares with us. Welcome Anjali to the show.
Thank you so much, Meenakshi, and it's my pleasure to be here. Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure to be here. Please introduce yourself.
So, as you said, I've been teaching in Shriram schools for over 20 years, and this journey has been full of learning. It has had its moments of pure, unadulterated happiness because, being with kids and being able to um, unleash my passion.
Yeah, I've
And
seen
where
you
that
in
had-
this school, so passionate teaching and so passionate
Thank
about
you. Nothing like
your
that.
profession.
And the best part was that the school gave us unlimited, unfettered,
Yeah, that was that's
they gave us so much of freedom to do what we wanted, how we wanted, as long as we were with the children, as long as we were, you know, able to get through to them. So it has been a journey of pure, unadulterated fun, learning. I've learned so much from there.
That's very true. I just agree with you. We learn so much with students. We teachers learn every day.
Every
actually
day,
with students.
absolutely, every day.
Every day. We
Every
get so much of
class.
energy from students.
Yes, you're right. And positive energy. I mean,
Positive
you can
energy,
leave
yeah.
everything back home.
That
and-
young energy,
Yes.
that is such a
Yes, absolutely. There is, you cannot replace
and
that.
replace
That's the best part of teaching, no doubt.
Yeah, I remember Anjali. You were teaching my son in grade 3.
Yes, that's right.
And my
That's
son
right.
was so passionate about. He was talking always about nature. That thing you gave it to him. He still is so passionate about nature.
How wonderful. Because, that
You
is.
taught about birds.
Yes.
Especially I remember
We
that.
had a chapter on birds, and that's been my cornerstone, that's been my touchstone for children. That whatever we teach, whatever we teach them has to touch them. It has to resonate with them. Till it doesn't resonate with them, the
Very
learning will not be complete.
Very true.
So for the learning to be, to make a difference, to make an impact, it has to touch them somewhere. And I'm so glad that Ankur has, developed a love for birds.
Love for birds.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I remember his days. It was such fun, and my God, I remember that there was a bird outside. A pigeon had made its nest outside
Yeah.
the window, and how he went and saw it every single day.
And he learnt a poetry about that.
Oh,
he
he
learnt a
did?
poem. You don't remember, but I remember that.
Oh, he
that
did?
Anjali ma'am showed us this thing. I want a poem about something.
Oh,
तो
really?
हिंदी में उसने एक कविता याद की थी चिड़िया के बारे में.
Okay,
And
wonderful.
that is still. And now he is 28 years
I
old. I
know,
must
I
tell
know.
you. Anjali, interdisciplinary teaching is a buzzword these days. Can you help us understand it more?
It is, Meenakshi, and I must tell you something that back, in Shriram School, so many years back, we were doing it on a regular basis. For example, you just told me about how your son enjoyed classes on birds and how, whichever chapter we did, for example, in EVS or in science, we always teamed up with our language teachers to see if we could somehow do a topic related to that.
Yeah.
So I remember there was this poem on animals, which we did it.
We did that in assemblies also.
We did it in assemblies, we did it in class, we did it as class projects. So there was always, in fact, science lends itself beautifully to interdisciplinary.
Especially in languages and art.
And not only language, in art, in drama.
Art, yeah.
In drama. I remember, talking about drama, I remember when we did digestive system. We did a small, maybe a 5-minute production of the process of digestion in human beings, how it goes from mouth, food goes from mouth.
That was, I
So-
remember that, yes.
You remember that? So how beautifully it, there was always this, this overshadowing, or not overshadowing, sorry, wrong word. This interdisciplinary, what is the word I'm looking for?
Transcending through
Oh.
subjects.
Another word? Give me another one.
Fluidity of
Yeah.
subjects.
So there was always this fluidity of subjects from one to the other.
Very true.
So we had, I remember when we were talking about northeast states in India, we asked our music teachers to, music and dance teachers to teach them the dances of northeast India.
Yes.
I remember in one annual function we did the bamboo dance.
Mhm.
You know, class fours did the bamboo dance, and that was when we were doing, the northeast states. So EVS science, it lends itself beautifully to this interdisciplinary. Okay, I'm stuck.
Say there was an intentional planning done for all of this.
And that just didn't happen like that.
Mhm.
We sat, we planned every month. There was a proper intentional planning happening,
Mhm.
where we sat with our music teachers, where we sat with our drama teachers, where we sat with our art teachers.
And everybody gave their inputs.
Yes, and that is how children learn that each subject doesn't exist in isolation.
Hi Anjali. You know what? I've been listening to you sitting right over there. And I think it just took me back to Sriram days. And you know what? Guess what? She used to be one of my mentors. I have learned so much from Anjali in my tenure at Sriram because I was a new teacher. I never taught and she was extremely helpful, very inspiring, and her lesson plans always had this spark. So she was that science teacher that you really want to be in her class. So yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you,
And,
my pleasure, Meenakshi.
and I remember, do you remember me as a very scared, teacher who's coming for the first time?
I remember you, yes,
Yeah.
but you were never scared. It was such a pleasure to interact with you. I remember, and you were such fun, and you had such fun ideas. So that was really nice.
Yeah. So it's the spark that you keep in yourself that actually reflects who you are. And while you were talking about interdisciplinary learning and that digestive system, I remember doing that in my class as well. Probably we would have planned together to do it. I won't remember way back. But yeah, I remember, each student used to take up the role of an organ, of an
That's
internal
right.
organ.
That's
And
right.
there was a food that would pass through every organ.
That's
And
right.
that organ had to tell what it'll do for the food. So it
That's-
was so much fun. And also this was, like we didn't have any formal terms at that time, but these were like diagnostic assessments, these were like formative assessments for us to know what have they understood and also help them get that understanding deeper into their minds. Isn't
Very
it?
true, very
Yeah.
true, Meenakshi.
Yeah.
And you know the best part, Meenakshi? Children knew about the digestive system like the back of the hand. Every organ and its function was clear to them. They knew the order, and for a 9 or a 10-year-old to know so much in detail is pretty good, and they could say it backwards. So it went down so beautifully with them, and I remember parents coming and sharing with us
Yeah.
that how beautifully children know it, and it's not that they mugged it up. The understanding was so deep, the understanding was so thorough. So yes, it helped.
Actually, that's true. Sometimes our plans were so powerful that they actually grew larger than what we could imagine. I remember while doing these animals and animal habitats, and we were doing homes, and we were doing so many things. We just thought we'd make it into an annual production, and we actually did the Lion King. We did an enactment of the Lion King, and everything from props to backdrops to dances to dialogues, everything was done by students of different grades. If you remember, language
see.
teachers used to sit down with students, write the dialogues. Music teachers used to have a complete choir playing those songs from Lion King, and it still gives me goosebumps to recall the entire production. And we were sitting behind, managing the backdrops which were painted and made by students. So everything from art, music, drama, language, science, social sciences, everything, environment, and the whole demeanor of how you're going to conduct yourself, how do you enter the stage, how do you exit it, everything was a part of it, isn't
Very
it?
true, very true. And I remember the masks were made in the art class.
Of course, yes.
And
I
they
remember
were
that.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
So yes, you're right. So we have the close interdisciplinary crossovers that a subject just lent itself, just flowed from one to the other so beautifully. There were never any boundaries, there were never any distinction that this is science and this is maybe languages, maybe art, no such thing. And not only for science, it was so for other subjects too. We did it in all subjects, we did it.
Absolutely. And I think that's the joy of sitting together and planning. Not to say that we did not use books, we did use textbooks as our base, but we built on
Yes.
that and we built on students' knowledge.
Yes.
I remember, the kind of strategies we used to have special workshops to learn strategies of engaging students, anything from brainstorming to small group discussions, large group discussions. So we used to have this inset where, and you know what? This is not today I'm talking about. Today it's pretty normal for everybody to be a part of such professional learning sessions. This is way back in
True.
2005 or 6 I'm talking about. And in those days, these things were unheard of. And
True.
I think even today, Sri Ram is known for their practices.
True. And innovative practices. I remember we did flipped classes. It was unheard of in those days.
Yeah.
It was unheard of children setting question papers, or their questions were taken as part of their question papers, which in my class, we did very regularly. When I was teaching math, now I have been teaching science most of the time, but this is a beautiful part of being in Shriram or as a primary teacher, that we can teach any of the other subjects too. So there was a time that I was teaching math, and I would invite children to make the question papers or send their sums, and I made sure that we put their sums in the question papers, and it was so beautifully done. The learning was so complete.
That's actually very good example. I recall now. I remember being a science and a math teacher for anywhere from grades 2 to 5. We used to move within
All
grades,
the
if you
time,
remember.
all the time.
And then came a space where the teacher had to be fluid about teaching whichever subject was given to them. Yeah, I was allocated an additional subject of English elocution. I was clueless. Now, that was an area that I wasn't familiar with. Therefore, I actually researched and found out, and I was doing elocution, English language elocution classes with students. I can't even imagine doing that, but believe you me, that actually gave me another skill as a teacher, helped me build my capacity and take it onwards.
You're right. You're right. So I remember as an HOD, it was not that I was just responsible for our subject, but there was a unique synergy that we had. It was like all of us thought of not only our subject, but how does it impact the child? How is the learning happening? Is she or he what are the strengths of the child? What is their learning?
So, Anjali, I remember you are quite an environmentalist, aren't you?
Well, in my own way, you could say that.
Yeah. Tell us more about it.
Since a very, very long time, I have been very passionate about what we are doing to our environment, and somehow I tried to weave that passion into my classes. I tried to mix it with whatever I was teaching, whatever activities we did, and I'm sure many schools are doing all of this and maybe more. I remember how we taught our children how to make bags out of t-shirts. It was such a fun activity.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It was then to cut down on plastics, to cut down on aluminium foil, to use handkerchiefs, to not use too much of tissues. Then we started doing gardening, and these are some of the things that have stayed with me. I was always very passionate about gardening, and we always had a pot or two in the class. Either we were doing some experiment with it, how long it's going to take for a banana peel to decay, or maybe grow some flowers. Winters we always grew some greens, leafy vegetables, or every year we were growing some green leafy vegetables, and then we used to put up a stall or maybe sell it to teachers So often we did that.
I think even on PTMs, if I remember, we used to
That's
have this
right.
whole table where students would sell plants.
That's right.
And then that, the earnings would go, the proceedings were actually predefined. What will happen with that money?
Yes, yes.
And Anjali, you might not know. I'm going to give you a secret. Anjali often talks about the way while the cows are on the roads, they're eating whatever comes their way. And you've always talked about how small pieces of plastics get stuck.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I have to tell you something. It actually gave me a lot of food for thought. And when you think about it, that is actually so true. So in my life, how Anjali has impacted my life is now I can't cut a pack of, let's say, a milk packet or a pack of curd, tangentially, and that little triangular piece to go into the bin. I always cut it horizontally. And currently, I'm also planning a project with my students where my students are going to create awareness about the way in which plastic should be used and mindfully disposed so that animals do not get affected by it. So thank you, Anjali.
How wonderful, Minna.
Isn't it
How
so
nice.
heartwarming to actually
Yes.
hear that, oh God, I was just talking because I am passionate about it and it actually resonated with somebody else and it touched another life
Yes,
and many lives with
yes.
that.
I think that's what learning is all about.
Yeah.
You learn anytime, you learn all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what teaching and learning is all about.
And teachers do not even realize while they are talking to those students, imagine 30 to 40 lives you're impacting each day. Every word you say matters. Every way you present yourself, the way you share your values, the way you present your passion to them, everything matters. And you make a dent in their lives, and that's a lifelong learning that they carry from your classroom. So really amazing work that happens. It's all thanks to teachers that we've been able to create good human beings on earth.
I like to think that, yes, it is so. No
Yeah.
doubt. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here
Thank you.
today. And I hope you had good takeaways from the experience of such an experienced educator, and having talked to Meenakshi as well. I hope you had a great session. See you next time. Thank you and bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.